Hey everyone, so we're continuing on with our dungeon series today. We're doing Queen of Tides because there is a Queen of Tides rally. So I figured now's the best time to kind of go over the mechanics of this dungeon. And hopefully it brings you a little more insight into the dungeon and you're able to build a team around this dungeon. So let's talk about it a little bit. As I like to do, I tend to go over the mechanics of this dungeon instead of showing you individual teams. There's a great resource within the game, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I figured it's best to know what the dungeon actually does. So then you can look at your roster and see what kind of team you can build based on the mechanics of the boss. Okay? So Queen of Tides, great dungeon. They've got a couple different gear sets that are usable. All three of them are usable. The warrior set is a great complementary piece, to add to some kind of damage dealer with the assassin set or avarice set. So really great complementary piece there. Cursed set used to be much better. I think it has since fallen off. I think assassin set is much better for damage dealers. There's not a whole lot of people in the game in regards to like support heroes that you want multiple attacks from. There are a couple damage dealers that do prefer curse set, but it's kind of a niche set nowadays, but still usable. And then Revival used to be a really nice progression gear that eventually fell off, but I think it ends up scaling pretty well into the end parts of the game, whether it be Void Tower Hard or these new Rift of Chaos dungeons. So it's a great dungeon still to farm because all three pieces of gear here, like I said, are all serviceable. So very nice there. So yeah, let's just talk about the dungeon a little bit. So the Queen here, she has two minions on the side of her, one on the right and one on the left. So the one on the right ends up healing her, giving her some heals, and ends up being the main target of this joint attack buff that the left minion ends up giving him. So whenever the boss attacks, that minion will also joint attack. So she can end up putting out a lot of damage if you don't have, the right type of heroes in there, or if you don't have enough sustain on your team, whether it be from max HP kind of bulk, or defense boosting heroes, or heroes that give your team shield. I'm implying a lot of things here about the heroes that I'm going to talk about. But there are a lot of benefits to bringing in some kind of tank strategy if you don't have enough DPS to kill the boss quickly. So this is just rehashing what I said. The right minion recovers health. The Queen herself does AoE damage as well as single target damage in regards to stun. So she will target the hero with the highest attack on your team and try and stun them. Put them like in this bubble. That stun lasts for 2 turns and it ends up dealing damage to that hero as well. So there are ways to avoid this or get around this kind of mechanic within the boss, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So as I mentioned with the minions themselves, she ends up using those minions to join in on attacks. And I have a little note here that if you're going on a tank composition, I suggest that you end up killing the right minion. Him healing back up the boss and doing those joint attacks from the left minion, I think can be overwhelming for a tank comp strategy. So it's best, in my opinion, to kill the minion on the right. And I will show that in one of the runs that we'll go through and hopefully solidify my case for that. The other thing that the Queen does, she gains buffs each turn. You can kind of see here in one of these moves that is on the screen to the right, saying she gains 2 random Blessing of the Goddess effects. These are just individual buffs, whether it's like crit resistance or I can't remember if it's dodge or something like that, or agility, right? So it makes your hits deflect more often or something like that. You don't want her putting up these buffs because she can end up doing bonus attacks if she has 3 or more of them. So not only do these buffs help her, mitigate her own damage, but then she also grants bonus attacks, which eventually just chip away at your health, and you'll end up dying. So I do recommend that you bring heroes that strip buffs, and we'll look at the team compositions here and just walk through why these team compositions work. And if you have heroes similar to them, you could have a workable strategy for your Queen of Tides team. All right, so for these stages, there's nothing unique, in my opinion, between Stage 12 and Hell Stage 4 with the Queen. It's just additional buffs, additional damage, and then additional health bars. So that is the only thing that changes, in my opinion. So all of those stages have the exact same things that I think you should try and watch out for. The 3 main points, per se. So you want to have enough damage to kill the waves. On the waves, as we'll see here with one of our main runs, the big crabs, so there's a handful of small crabs and then some big crabs. The big crabs hit really hard, especially on their second hit. So it is important to have enough damage to kill the waves, or you're not even going to get to the Queen herself. I do think it's really important to bring buff removal if you're going with the strategy that is not a speed run, right? There are speed runs where you just ignore everything about the boss and you just go in and you nuke her within, under a minute and you're done with it. But a lot of people can't do that. So if you're bringing a slower team, buff removal is definitely important because you don't want her gaining those bonus attacks. Immunity. Whether it is self-immunity on your highest attack hero, because that's where she puts the stun. There are a couple heroes in here that give themselves self-immunity, which is really nice. Or heroes like Yolanda, who gives single target immunity. She'll always use her ability that gives immunity and attack up to your highest attack hero. So it kind of plays hand in hand with being able to avoid that stun. Or some kind of cleanser. The Queen doesn't put any kind of debuffs up on your team, neither do her crabs, so all you need to do is worry about that cleanse of that stun debuff that she puts up on your team. And then I have here that unhealable is nice to have just because the right minion heals the boss, so if you have a hero that has unhealable in their kit that also goes along with the overall strategy of your team comp, then that's just an added bonus. So let's take a look at some of the teams that they have here, and we'll show you some runs. So this first team is actually the team that I use. It is a speedrun team. It is a lower percentage. I will say that this Queen of Tides dungeon has much more variety than other dungeons. And this top team, I think, is because, Aaron, this character on the far left, was an Attack on Titan hero. It was a special collab for their 1-year anniversary, and he was only available at that time. So if you don't have him, you can't ever run that comp. There are similar comps to it, but he is specific, but this is a speedrun team. I do think that this team right here is probably the most free-to-play friendly, quote-unquote, because I'm pretty sure you can beat Stage 16 here with this team without having these heroes booked. I will say whenever we do the run, these 3 epics are booked, but my main damage dealer in Bulin is not booked, and it is 100% successful. So this is a really nice team where you're just utilizing a comp strategy, and then you're taking advantage of Bulin's kit to help you beat the Queen, because she does a lot of things. She has self-immunity on her ultimate, so if you build her with the highest attack, it was kind of what we were talking about with the Queen's mechanics. Her single target stun will target Bulin, but because she has immunity up, she won't have stun on her, so it'll be irrelevant. That's kind of nice. And then Bulin also has buff removal on her basic ability, so she can remove the buffs from the Queen as well. And she also does AoE damage on her ultimate, so she helps you clear waves and then helps you kill the minions of the Queen faster as well. Jonathan in this comp strategy is there to eat all of the AoE damage. He also has attack down, defense down on his ultimate. He heals himself, and he has unhealable. He's also amazing for this dungeon as well. And then Hakron, obviously for the max health, fantastic to keep your team healthy and tanky. And he also gives your team, a buff to their defense based on his defense at the very start of the dungeon run. Marion Shadowblood is a really nice option here because she has some sustain on her ultimate ability. She has lifesteal as well as doing damage based on the boss's max health. So really cool stuff there. It's a really well-designed composition, and I'll show this to you in a run. These other heroes here, this is another speed run, just using Flarence. Antinua as your main damage dealer. She's a great DPS wood hero. William is in there as well to get additional attacks. Defense down, just help you maximize your damage output to try and kill the queen fast enough before your team dies. Similar teams here, Mathasia is your single target cleanse for any of your heroes if you need it. She also has a nice heal if your team's getting a little low. Ashlyn is a little bit odd, but just because of her AI, you want her in her light mode most of the time because that's where she can do the most damage. But once she gets to max spark, she will switch into light mode and then probably do really nice damage to the queen. Rachel here is another great DPS hero. She serves a great role with Bulin as well to also reduce some of the queen's buffs. But it is adding another legendary hero. That's why I like this second composition, because it's 3 epics and then just 1 legendary. But it's all along the same lines. You can usually tell if it's a tank composition if it's got Jonathan or Hakron in it. And then it's going to be a speedrun team if you don't see either of those heroes. So, yeah, a bunch of nice team compositions here. But in the end, I think the one that people are able to progress with the most is probably this team. So let's just take it for a spin, and then I'll show you why it works and just all of the mechanics that we were kind of talking about in our opening kind of monologue there. And on a separate note, Bulin is another great option here because with the leader skills that they just added, she gives your entire team increased attack by 20% just by having her in the team. So really cool there. We'll add in the rest of the heroes that they had in that comp. And we'll just show you how this works. So I will slow it down, but I'll keep it on auto. So Marion Shadowblood, on her ultimate ability, she does this nice big attack to everybody that did true damage based on their health. And she does those joint attacks just for those little pieces of chip damage here and there. Meanwhile, Bulin is gaining up some rage to do damage based on this induction kind of mechanic that she has. So she's doing enough damage to these little minions here as our main DPS, along with Marion Shadowblood, to help us get us through the waves before that big crab who does a lot of damage can kill our team. So getting through that first wave is really, really important because you have those 2 big crabs that you have to worry about. I will mention, though, that these big crabs, their very first turn is just a single target hit, and it is not very scary. Their second turnaround is where they do this big AoE hit to your team, which can usually take out your entire team. But Jonathan is also in here to help you eat that damage just in case you don't have enough DPS to kill those crabs before their next turn. So anyway, we're progressing here through the waves. We do thankfully have enough DPS from our team to get to the queen. So here I have this minion on the right being our main focus of damage before we go after the queen, because I don't want him joint attacking on our team and chipping away at us. Now, we do have to kill it quick enough before the queen starts building up enough buffs on herself to do a bunch of damage. But our team should be doing enough damage here to this little crab that we'll be killing him here in 1 or 2 turns. And then we can move on to the queen. So there, the queen did her AoE ability, and Jonathan came in with his nice shields to keep our team pretty healthy. But as you see here, the queen is building up 2 sets of buffs. Once she gets 3 or more buffs, she'll do her regular attack, and then she'll do an additional attack, which hopefully you'll see here. That attack that she just targeted Bulin was that single target stun. But that's where Bulin's immunity came in. It was really, really nice timing of her ultimate, so the queen could not stun her. So we're slowly chipping away at this big crab here while keeping our team healthy. Bulin's doing that chip damage with her induction. And then the queen is going to go do an AoE ability. And now she has 4 buffs up. And see, she did that bonus attack. That's why you really want to bring in a buff stripper. So then you don't have to worry about those additional attacks. And that's where Bulin also serves a great purpose. Now, as you saw there, once you kill that crab, it removed the buffs from the queen. So if you can kill him quick enough, it doesn't matter if she gets 1 of those bonus attacks up. After that, you're going to be okay. So here, with that minion down, all this team does is go in and just chip away at this boss until she's gone, because you have enough sustain from your team with Jonathan and Hakron giving your team max health or those big shields for you to kill this queen before she kills you. So she does have those 3 buffs up, but if Bulin does her basic ability, she takes down 1 of the buffs, and then she won't do a bonus attack. So, pretty nice. So we've got her under 3 buffs, so our team is still healthy. We still have nice shields up from Jonathan. And then on top of that, he's going in and he's putting up the attack down and defense down. So we're doing some more damage, and she's doing a lot less damage to us. So one of her abilities, as you see here, is one of her buffs is she can put up a shield on her. That's another viable buff for Bulin to eventually remove. And this is where, if you saw teams that didn't have like Marion Shadowblood, but they have the option to bring in Rachel. Rachel's an amazing legendary for Queen of Tides because she does a lot of damage to Queen, as well as removing additional buffs, so you're not just depending on Bulin for your buffs. Another thing that I didn't mention in my notes is the Queen has an AoE ability. It's kind of that tidal wave ability that you saw there. It gains additional damage the more times she uses it. So it is somewhat important to kill the queen quickly, even with a tank comp, because if you're too slow, that tidal wave ability will eventually kill you over time. So as you see here, we're coming to an end. This is a bit of a longer run, obviously, but with background battles and things of that nature, I don't think that speedruns are all that important. It's nice to have for rallies or something like that if you're trying to, I guess, finish in the top 3 or 4, when you're competing with, with the whales to try and get additional rewards. But other than that, a slow tank comp strategy is just really nice to run overnight or something, get your 30 runs in if you bought any of the cards or whatnot, or just doing other things, within the game while you're waiting for your runs to end. So, like I said, we're running, we're right towards the end of this run here. And this will be Hell Stage 2. And like I said, Bulin is not booked. These heroes are booked, but they don't do any real damage. I think they're just there for the support. Marion Shadowblood does her damage based on the enemy's health. Has nothing to do with her own. So she can also be built tanky. So that is the ideal tank team. Now there's obviously plenty of speed teams in here that you can run speed comps with, whether it's Rachel, whether it's Shane and Clarence with Antinua. All of those options work. Opal is amazing for this dungeon as well. William is great for the counterattacks, like I said. Nathalia. Hitoshi is a really great option as well to clear waves. So that's kind of cool. He does seem to be enough DPS to get through the queen herself. I'm thinking this Valeria does some nice chip damage to the minions. But just teams like this, this is going to get the job done. I don't think you need Shane or Clarence. It just makes things really fast. Baron, another great option to help you get through the waves. Just make things a little bit quicker. And then you have Jonathan, Marion, and Bulin to help you kill the boss. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely more of a shorter video in regards to my other dungeon compositions. But I did just want to show you that as some helpful tips to help you in this Queen of Tides rally. I will show you just the speed comp here real quick. It's Shane, it's Clarence, it's Antinua, and Aaron. So there's Antinua and then Aaron. So this is a fun little comp. You're basically using all of the debuffs from Shane and from Clarence to trigger Aaron's ability, who, if there's more than, I think, 8 or 10 buffs, I can't remember, he ends up doing joint attacks with your entire team. And Antinua has an absolutely great damage multiplier on her basic ability, as well as her ultimate and special ability. So anytime she even joints attacks, she does great damage. But this is all that this is. You're utilizing Clarence's splash damage from her trait as well to help take down the waves quickly. And then once you get to the boss, you actually kill the boss in one turn. This is why this is a speed run. Oh, whoops. I was wondering why that was failing. We need to go here. I might have jacked that up just because I was targeting the wrong hero. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so if I wasn't targeting the right boss, the right minion, I think you see how I would have killed the queen in one fell swoop. But yeah, sadly I had my parameters to show you that tank composition, so we didn't take down the boss in one shot. But we almost did it still, even by targeting the first crab at the beginning. So that's what a speedrun looks like. And no good pieces. Anyway, that's all I got for the Queen of Tides dungeon guide. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I try and respond to them at least within 4 or 5 days. If they're direct questions, if they're just, comments or general statements, I tend to just, give a like and a heart on your comment because I appreciate you being engaged in my videos. But if you give me some direct questions, I'll try and answer them the best I can. So anyway, hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you on the next one, guys. See ya.